Trailblazer by Marc Benioff. I first heard about Marc Benioff and SalesForce from a Tony Robbins seminar. Marc Benioff was working for Oracle, the world's largest cloud computing company. He was getting close to the top of it too, and something wasn't right.
How is that possible, Mark? You're on the top of one of the greatest companies on earth and you're making $1 million a year.
Well, he went to Tony Robbins and he's like, Tony, you just inspired me so much, I'm gonna leave Oracle.
What?
And I'm gonna start a new company. I'm gonna call it SalesForce, and we're gonna do $100 million in business. A few years ago, they did $8 billion, now they're worth over 50. Isn't that insane? To my understanding, SalesForce powers a certain type of business platform called CRM. It stands for Customer Relationship Management. The only other prominent company I know of that does this is, of course, Amazon Web Services. CRM is a piece of software or application that salespeople use to digitally grow and maintain relationships with customers. I should know I work for a car dealership. In internet sales, I do not think Salesforce powers our CRM. I think it's actually AWS, but our CRM is very, very fun to use. And if it weren't so fun and easy and intuitive to use, I probably wouldn't be as good at my job as I am. The author wrote this book to share everything he learned from his journey, taking Salesforce from a poorly funded startup, operating next door to his old San Francisco apartment, to one of the fastest growing tech companies that also ranks high on annual lists of the best places to work. But the book is also about how to create a culture where doing well is synonymous with doing good. And he put a lot of emphasis on this throughout the book. In order to thrive in a world where our company is only as strong as the principles it adopts, his hope is that whatever business you're in, I said urine. This book will inspire you to bring your values to work. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam and I want to make self-growth normal because people shouldn't have to look this information up. It should just be mainstream knowledge. If that's something you're interested in, please make sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button if you like this video so we can, further spread these ideas. In this video, I'm going to talk about the book, my thoughts on it, some things maybe, I took away from it, some standout quotes, who I recommend it to, and what books to maybe check out next. It might sound like a lot, but somehow we always get through these things. There are two parts. There's values create value, and the second one is business is the greatest platform for change. Part 1, values create value. The first chapter is called Beginnings. It tells us about what his childhood was like and how his father and grandfather and family really played an influence in his grasp on entrepreneurship and values in corporate culture. The next chapter is called Trust, and I learned from this chapter that with trust, I can see how trust has more to do with what you keep than what you gain, which is really weird to think about, but like the operationalization of values is really, really, really key here. Either the author or one of his colleagues said this: as soon as you put innovation in front of trust as a priority, you are a frog in hot water. The next chapter is called Customer Success. I learned in this chapter that your success is a reflection of your customer's success. And what brought Trailblazer to life was the way that the author unpacked, I would say, the different situations or experiences that Salesforce had with Merrill Lynch and Home Depot. That brought a lot of life to the book. What really stood out to me in the next chapter, Innovation, is where he discussed fears we have of technology's role in our futures. He explained that there needs to be a seamless relationship between the people who build it and the people who use it. And if you really think about that, like all the people who are creating this technology and all the people who are using it, there has to be a seamless relationship between them. That only gives you the idea that this is really only as ethical as how we approach it, if that makes sense. In equality, you learn about how Salesforce figured out it had a gender wage gap and what it did to correct that. I don't know how that happens because the author always said that, he saw himself as more of, for lack of a better term, left-wing CEO than many others were probably considered to be at the time in Silicon Valley or other areas of California. So he was even surprised to find this out. And I to this day, I still kind of wonder how it happens if wages are intentionally set up not to be like that. I don't know, it's kind of strange to me. Like, for a long time, I thought that was just based on some large study that took a percentage of what just happened to be at the time. And then people found out about it and then, whispered down the alley. That's what I thought it was. To be honest, at this point, I can really tell you that I don't know what I don't know, and I never knew what I never knew. But there definitely is a lot of literature on this topic elsewhere. The author mentioned that as a man who was brought up in a male-dominated industry, he is vulnerable to the many subtle perceptions and expectations that men apply only to women, and to some extent that women project on men in positions of authority. I guess the reason I'm bringing all this up is because It's strange to me, but it also definitely isn't, how when you're in the leadership of a large corporation, it's basically impossible to avoid social issues. Part 2 is business is the greatest platform for change. The next chapter is called Ohana, which in Hawaiian means family. In Salesforce, they try to emulate that in their culture. Something I really like about Trailblazer is just how clearly and simply Benioff was able to touch base on important issues in this day and age and where they coincide with technology and business. A lot of it really reminded me of Apple. For example, something they take very seriously is reimagining the social contract of the 21st century. Something I've been saying for a while is that a challenge this big and complex simply can't be solved by politicians. As automation accelerates, businesses need to find ways to retrain workers in different skills for the jobs of tomorrow. America's universities only produced 63,000 computer science graduates in 2018, but there are over 500,000 jobs in the field waiting to be filmed, and heaven knows how many have yet to exist that are waiting to be created compared to ones they may as well be cementing themselves over. Not that I'm complaining, but it is kind of sad. In the last few months especially of doing what I do at work, at least, I've started to pay a lot more attention to the questions I ask customers and how I ask them, and adjusting them to how each one is answered. And that's not something that you learn in a sales script. A superior of mine calls them soft skills. And when he says soft skills, he likes to take his hands and go like this.
Soft skills.
The typical 21st century car buyer, new or pre-owned, is much more educated and has very different expectations of their salespeople from 50 years ago, when so many of today's car selling scripts were either created or their infrastructures were created, because a lot of this stuff is based on, studies that were done decades and decades and decades ago. And that's why so many trainers, especially today, will encourage you to use a script as like a bit of a skeleton. I don't know, if I were a trainer, I've only been in sales for like 2 years, but I would recommend adjusting it to your personality the more you get those concepts down, so you can create an experience for the customer. The fact that this isn't done so well by as many salespeople has indirectly given a lot of leverage to Amazon of car sites like CarMax or Carvana. The fact that there's a lack of trust and the ability to show that you are listening to what someone wants. And this is just a real world example, or I guess a series of them together, that sort of solidify where the world is moving in a certain field and where and how people are able to adapt to it. But that's definitely what this chapter reminded me of. The last chapter, The Activist CEO, really cries out about personal experiences of Benioff's and the importance of activism. When certain issues of social justice really come to light in front of him, a lot of people, in my opinion, are quick to dismiss how, for example, maybe not homelessness is bad for business, but rather how doing something about it is good for business. As the author says, unbridled capitalism isn't good for anyone, not even the companies getting rich from it. Everyone who is still on the street is one fewer person getting an education, entering the workforce, or contributing to the local economy and community. Quotes. Business is temporal, but relationships are eternal, which means they have to be genuine and built on common ground. Transparency isn't only about what we gain, but what we avoid losing. There's no way to put a dollar value on values. These tools will be exactly as ethical as the people who build them. Shepherds do not beget sheep. Sheep beget sheep. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Direction 1. I recommend this book for anyone who has wondered how and why a tech company would bother with social issues. Direction 2. If you like this book, a few others come to mind. The first one is definitely Delivering Happiness by Zappos CEO Tony Hsieh. Especially with this, starts as a CEO memoir, turns into a company's ups and down history, style to it. Other books talking about corporate culture really stood out, like The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle and No Rules Rules by Reed Hastings and Aaron Myers. Trailblazer by Marc Benioff. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video, if you want to check those out too. If you guys buy anything through the links in the description, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please let me know in the comments below. Also let me know if you checked out this one and you liked it, but hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.